kind of tax cuts would you look at? We've heard again, potential cut in the payroll tax, indexing capital gains. What would you accept?
Well, you know, we've been talking about indexing for a long time, and many people like indexing, and it can be done very simply. It can be done directly by me. And so we've been looking at that. As you probably have heard, I can do it directly. So we're talking about indexing, and we're always looking at the capital gains tax, payroll tax. We're looking at, I would love to do something on capital gains. We're talking about that. That's a big deal, goes through Congress. Payroll tax is something that we think about, and a lot of people would like to see that, and that very much affects the workers of our country, and we have a lot of workers. Right now, by the way, we have more people working today than we've ever had before in the history of our country. We have almost 160 million people working today. I think the word recession is a word that's inappropriate because it's just a word that the certain people, I'm going to be kind, certain people in the media are trying to build up because they'd love to see a recession. We're very far from a recession. In fact, if the Fed would do its job, I think would have a tremendous spurt of growth, a tremendous spurt. The Fed is psychologically very important, less so actually, but very psychologically important. And if the Fed would do its job, which it's really done very poorly over the last year and a half, you would see a burst of growth like you've never seen before. And that would be lowering interest rates and maybe putting some if you look at what China is doing, if you look at what Germany is doing, if you look at what so many countries are doing, putting some money in because we want to compete with these other countries. So I think that we actually are set for a tremendous surge of growth if the Fed would do its job. That's a big if, frankly. But the Fed should be cutting, and I would say they should say at a minimum 100 basis points over a period of time, not at one time, but over a period of time.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.